Okay, just hit continue. Rob, you want to start?
Okay.
John?
Let's try.
Yep. Oh, let's see if everybody's ready. This is
Yeah.
a big crowd today, so
Okay,
I think
right.
this is the biggest one since the Crystal Skull. So,
Yes, it's a
yeah.
crystal
Yep.
skull.
So yep.
Okay.
So if you guys are ready, we'll start in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Mystical Underground. Thank you for joining us. This is Rob McGregor.
And Trish McGregor.
And our producer and tech magician, John Posey. You can go to themysticalunderground.com where we make regular blog posts and where you can find out about our books. Among them are Phenomena, Harnessing Your Psychic Abilities, The Secrets of Spirit Communication, Sensing the Future, and Aliens in the Backyard, something our guests today know about. Our upcoming book is called The Shift, Reports from the Mystical Underground. Trish's new novel, White Crows, will be coming out when, Trish? Soon,
May
right?
24th.
Okay. And I am slowly releasing the audio edition of Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings, and that's going to be speeding up soon. Okay.
Okay, well, introducing our guest today isn't as easy as saying they're the authors of, or the producers of, or that they act in. Earlier this year, Mellisa Fordham, who's on here, who used to babysit our daughter when she was a kid, wrote Trish about an experience her cousin, Joe Killian, had. She asked Trish if she would talk with Joe through email. So I said, sure. So it's a synchronicity that she happened to be in South Florida this weekend visiting her parents and didn't know we were having Joe on the show. Yep. So I suggested she come up to the house and join us. Joe in 2019 had an alien encounter that, in his words, turned his life upside down. He's a retired elementary physical ed teacher from Danbury, Connecticut, where he taught from January 1973 to June 2009 in public schools. He also worked in many restaurants to help supplement his income during those years. That's why he's connected to the place and area where his encounter occurred. Ken Hopkins, I met through LinkedIn, where he'd written, "For most of my life, I had no awareness that I was an abductee. The night experiences I thought were dreams. In these, I would visit many places and see the same people many nights after I fell asleep. I thought they were dream people. I could smell, touch them, and have all 6 senses with them. Some places were cold, some places warm, and other places I couldn't seem to get enough oxygen." So we've invited both guys to talk about their many experiences and invited Mellisa to talk about what Joe initially told her. Welcome, Joe, Ken, and Mellisa.
Welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
Mellisa, start with what Joe initially told you and where it happened.
Yeah, so I believe it was last August, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, when our Uncle Pete passed away. We were at his funeral in Connecticut. Now, I don't see my family in Connecticut all that often, so it was sad to be there, but happy to see, you know, everybody else that was there. And while I was waiting in line to pay my respects, Joe, I think he waved, I can't remember exactly, but he waved over at me or stopped by and said, I need to speak to you. And I thought, oh no, what did I do? I haven't seen you in a long time. I couldn't possibly be in trouble at this point. So long story short, I made my way over to him after, you know, talking to cousins, talking to aunts and uncles on the way. He said, I have got to tell you something. Apparently, I believe it was on my Facebook page. He had seen something I liked or commented about and thought that I knew Whitley Strieber. And I don't, obviously, but I do know of him through you guys. And I probably followed his page. And he said he wanted to get in touch with him because he had this experience. So he told me the story. I'm not going to go into any of those details. I'll let Joe do that. But I said, you know what? I don't know Whitley Strieber, but I do know Rob and Trish, and let me put you in contact with them. And I think you guys could probably work something out, get some help, discuss this. They'll put you in touch with people who know a lot about something that you're telling me. So that's really the short of it.
Okay, Ken and Joe, you both seem to share bizarre experiences with aliens, UFOs, and encounters. Okay, Joe, tell us what happened to you on the night of January 26, 2019.
Well, yes, it was at a restaurant over in Croton Falls in Westchester County, New York. And it's a place that I previously worked at and knew everybody over there. I knew all the waiters, the chef, the owners, and I would, you know, not only that, but customers too. And it became a nice place to meet people, and they call me up all the time, and good relationship with everybody. And one night I was over there, and it was that night, January 26, 2019. And I had eaten dinner at the back of the bar area. All right. And a lot of the staff goes back there. So that's where I picked that spot. And we were talking and talking. And before you know it, it's closing time. And it was a busy night in the restaurant. They were kind of pressured, and a lot of stress was going on that night, as I recall. And, after I had dinner and everything, I went up and saying goodnight to everybody. Everybody else was closing. The main dining room had been closed. There was nobody in it. And the bartender was there. The owner was there. My two friends, the manager and one of my good friends that was a waiter there. And, I said goodnight to everybody, and the owner had left. And, the other two gentlemen, the manager and the waiter, had stayed. But the bartender was there, and I was talking to him and everything. And the last person that left ahead of me was my former busboy, and he had went out through the kitchen area of the back of the restaurant. And I said goodnight to Jack, who was the bartender. I walked out, and I had a bag of bottles in my hand. They used to joke around. I used to collect the bottles, and they would save them for me and all that stuff. And it got to be kind of I had them trained well. I told him, I got like $3,000 worth of bottles here. I'm going to go to Disney World soon, and pretty soon he goes, maybe I should start saving them. But it was my way of recycling, And so I had the bottles in my left hand. I had my jacket on and my keys. I go out the front door. As I'm on the porch, I hear this rustling sound in the down near the porch area between the shrubbery and the wooden porch. And I look over and I see this figure, all short figure, kind of stocky, with a hood on over his head, which isn't unusual because it's January. It's like about 25 degrees out, and he's walking parallel to the porch, and I kind of lose sight of him. The night was a very dark, hazy night. It wasn't foggy, but it was thick enough to stop a lot of light. You really couldn't see anything, and they had shut all the lights off pretty much on the upper part of the building, and the lower part, the porch lights were on. And I thought, well, geez, this is kind of unusual. There's somebody there. I mean, there was not a customer left. There was no cars in the parking lot other than the SUV that was parked next to the staircase that I was going to be going down. So I thought, well, maybe it's one of the kitchen workers going in there and sneaking a beer, because sometimes they do that. So, I didn't really think too much of it. So I walked down around the SUV, and I look back and I see this tall figure, about 6'2", 6'4", and I said, maybe that's the same guy I saw, because he's got a hood over his head, and he's lanky and he's tall, and his posture was very unique. He was like hunched over at the top. So, I'm thinking, well, maybe it's he wasn't a customer, because I would have noticed him if he came in, and nobody else had seen him. And I thought maybe he came from the train station. It was over in Croton Falls there. The train station isn't too far away. So then I'm thinking, well, he can't be a homeless man in Westchester County. This is a very affluent area. I mean, there's, thoroughbred horse ranches and all this around there, and, celebrities. You don't see any homeless people in this area. So then I said, this is odd. And then he was all in black, and his shoes were black. And so as I walked around, he started coming out into where the torch lights were. He's on the edge of the grass in the Belgian block. And all of a sudden, his pants turned like light brown. He's got dark brown Oxfords on, which are tied off shoelaces. But what struck me, he's got these bright gold grommets, where, eyelets, where the shoelaces go in and out. And as I'm walking parallel, I look up at him and I say, hey, man, where you going, baby? Just in an upbeat, friendly kind of way, because I figured he was going to the gas station, which was down next to the restaurant. And the gas station was still open, heavy fluorescent lights. So it was just radiating from the gas station. And there were trees there, hemlock trees that were evergreens that were blocking, used for a boundary, so the lights wouldn't broadcast too much into the parking lot. So the bottom of the lights, of the fluorescent lights, would illuminate the part of the parking lot. As I'm walking next to this guy, there's a static electricity sound emanating from his shoes. And, you know, I'm not really thinking too much about that. It's just kind of, you know, there's like a crackling noise. And then I said, geez, something's not right. So I kind of veered off to the left. I'm going down the slope of where the parking lot was. And as he gets up past the rampway, which is the handicap rampway, all of a sudden, I see out of the corner of my eye, he gets stretched out, he gets pulled up and broken apart, disembodied, all right? Dismembered. I see to the left, which really was a graphic image, I'll never forget this. His left leg is detached. I see a rip in the sky, almost like somebody drew a knife. And I have this, I'll show you later with my drawings that I did. And this folds up from his upper leg to his knee, down to his lower leg, to his shoe. And I see the same shoe with the, you know, golden grommets just fold into it. Underneath, on the right side, everything's going up in a fan shape. I look up and I see, like, you know, dismembered body parts all fluctuating underneath, and these bubble clouds going up. And at the top of the bubble clouds, I see these starlights blinking on and off, you know, really white glaring little stars going on and off, saying, holy cow. I look up next and I see these two radiant blue, electric blue streaks of light up in the air coming from a south to a north direction. And then in the middle of this, I see a rectangle. The rectangle is coming, it's about the size of a thumbnail. It's coming directly at me. I look at it, I'm like mesmerized by it. It's red on top, yellow on the bottom, and it's got a robin's egg blue sphere in the lower right-hand corner. It's coming, and when it gets right above me, it topples over, it folds into the bubbling clouds, and everything just completely implodes back into like a black hole. Gone. I'm saying, whoa, boy. I go down to my truck, and my busboy, oddly enough, is coming around in his car. And he rolls his window down. He says, what's going on? I said, did you see what I just saw? Did you see any part of this? No, I didn't see nothing, he goes. I told him what happened. I said, I think I saw a ghost. I think the person just completely blew up in front of me, whisked away. I didn't get into too much detail with him on that. And you know, I didn't see nothing, So I throw the bottles in the back of my truck. I open the door, get my truck. I drive up to the front of the building, and I park to the other side of the SUV. I roll the passenger side window down because I see the manager and my other good friend, who is a waiter there, standing on the landing of the porch. So they see me and they come down and they, Joe, what are you still doing here? I said, guys, I just saw something I've never seen in my life before. It's just uncanny. It's unbelievable. And I told him, I think I saw a ghost, and I think this guy went up in the air and he's gone. And, you know, it was startling. So, you know, obviously the first thing the manager goes, well, Joe, calm down. It's all right, blah, blah, blah. Come on and have a drink. I don't drink, you know, especially I never got convicted of any DUIs over there, and a lot of other waiters did. And, you know, running the gauntlet on 684, going to 84 is like, you know, they have checks all over the place with cops. So I told him, I said, this is what happened. I said, I'm not making this up. This is, you know, this is just too startling for me. So I spoke to him a little bit. I noticed I calmed down a little bit. I got in my truck, I backed up again, and I went home. I got home about half an hour later, pulling my driveway, and I noticed that the moon, like a full moon, is coming up, and it's breaking through the haze, and it's in the lower eastern end of the sky. So I said, I wish this moon was out before. Maybe it would have illuminated things better over there. I go in the house, I'm still shaken by it all. I turn all the lights on. I sit down, and I write 17 pages on these little notepads of everything that I saw. I wrote everything down. I didn't want to forget anything. I was up all night. I couldn't go to sleep.
You also drew some pictures, didn't you?
Yes, yes. Would you like to see them now?
Sure, go ahead, because
Yeah.
Ken's got
Okay.
photos to show us too.
All right, okay, this, I'm not the best artist in the world anymore. I used to be, but not anymore. This picture here is the best rendition I can come of the tall, thin person who I saw walking.
That's pretty good.
Did he ever make
Mhm.
a sound?
Only the crackling sound of the static electricity, like.
You at
Yeah.
one point described that as like insectile, didn't you?
The more I thought it was, this was a religious type of thing in the beginning, a spiritual thing, or the guy going to heaven. But who would go to heaven like this unless he went to hell first?
That's a good point.
And this is what it was. But then the more after, I'll speak a little bit more about that later. I'm more convinced that this was definitely an alien encounter that I never ever thought I'd be talking about right now to you. This is the picture. Can you get it all? I don't know. It's kind of I put on the phone board. All right.
Pretty good depiction.
All right. Can you see it?
The head too is interesting with this
Well,
hood
the
on.
head was draped in the the hoodie, and I couldn't really see. I thought in the beginning I could see. I assumed he was a white Caucasian, and I looked to see if I could see the peak of his nose or his cheekbone coming out, and I really couldn't. I can't. It could have been. It could have been an empty head. I don't know. But the other thing is, now I thought the short person who was parallel to the porch that was moving away from me, that I think I startled him and he moved away. I thought that guy was the same guy, but it wasn't. This guy flew up and blew away. What happened to the little guy? I don't know, if they were two separate people. And I think now they were, especially after I read Whitley Scribner's book about communion.
Uh-huh.
And then, I find that the Hudson River Valley is a hotbed of this UFO activity. 65% of the people over there have seen some type of, UFO or UAP or had some kind of encounter. And I'll tell you something about that afterwards, because in my investigation, I got a hold of a person who lived in the house and whose brother was there and so forth. And I spoke to him about it. And he's the one that said I was blessed to have seen this. Well, I'm not sure, But this is when he flew up and blew up. To the left of him, this is what it looked like with his leg that became dismembered from his body. All right. It was just hanging on the left side of everything. And then when I get my other pictures, you can see maybe how we can get it into context.
Ken, have you ever seen anything like that?
There's many different ways with the different species they play with technologies. I'm not familiar with that particular appearance and disappearance.
Mhm.
And I'm not familiar with that particular entity. I've been interviewing a lot of people of different celestial encounters. So, but it's quite a unique experience. And of course, the question comes is, what was his purpose? What was he visiting for?
That's what I've been troubled with, But this is another thing, Ken. Maybe you could help me with this one. When his leg was, I just showed you the picture of the leg.
Yeah.
Above that, his leg, I see this happen. It's like somebody is on the other side of the atmosphere and draws like a knife or a razor blade and opens up the sky to above his leg. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Opens it up, and then the leg goes through it.
Sorry.
I rehearsed this before. With his upper leg first, and his knee, and then his shoe. Goes right through it like that.
Jeez.
Yeah, that pattern of disappearance I've seen, as if an imaginary line comes through the object and makes it disappear. Or it goes
like
through.
somebody was on the other side, like the hazy night was like a wall, and somebody was on the other side of the wall looking at me and drawing that. And that's how that thing entered into it. Now, this is the other thing. This is my rendition of, it's a smaller rendition
Jeez.
of the bubble clouds and the starlights that are going up to the right side of the restaurant. It went up to probably the top of the roof. It's a 4-story building, up to the top of the roof. Underneath these bubble clouds, all dismembered body parts of this alien. Then the blue streaks appear, and then this comes out. It almost looks like a flag. It's a rectangle, and it's soaring at me. The colors of this are not of this world. They're vibrant,
Yeah.
they're
Wow.
moving, they're textured. It's almost like you could walk into it, fall into it. I thought it was the gateway to heaven. I really did.
Huh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how powerful it was. But this is exactly how it looked. And this is forever tattooed in my brain right now.
Almost like a flag.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, I put it on Facebook, Ken, and I asked people. I said, has anybody ever seen anything like this before? And I never said what it was. You
I
know?
remember that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And most people answered that they thought it was some flag for a country.
Right. And,
Yeah.
and it does.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, the colors are Ukraine there, you know?
Yeah, it does kind of resemble
Yeah.
the Ukraine.
But this is 2019, you know?
It's a good
Joe,
point.
did you feel any vibrations or anything while this was happening? You're fairly close to him.
I was 10 feet next to him, and then I veered off to the left and got a little bit farther away.
Yeah.
I didn't really feel any vibrations. But the static electricity
Yeah.
sound was I felt that. Now maybe there was like a little bit of vibration just from that hearing that. You know,
Electromagnetic frequencies are quite common in the interdimensionals appearing high levels of and matter of fact, this has interfered with a lot of my filming. But high electromagnetic fields are developed around these what becomes solid forms.
You know, I was wondering, Ken, if that was his way of his communication with me. You know, maybe he was trying to say, keep away from me or go away. You know,
Why did you think it was coming from his shoes?
because it was the golden grommets in his shoes that were moving were like a conductor. And it was like when I looked down, and he's short little steps, but they're like scissoring steps. And I hear this crackling noise, and my whole focus of my eyes went to his shoes.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, I'm looking at it from the standpoint, this gas station that's over there, it was lit up. I'm wondering if this alien is thinking that maybe that is where he's supposed to be going. Maybe he's thinking that he was disoriented and that was his landing spot, or that was a UFO that was waiting there for him. I'm thinking of that too. I don't know. But
It seems to me
he was taken up.
he was making an appearance for you,
Okay, that's
specifically
okay.
for you.
You know, and I want to tell you something, Ken. There was nobody else around at that time. No cars on the road. There was nothing going on. The people that didn't come out until later. My busboy was held back. He didn't come around till later. You know, I mean, I was the only one and I had no witnesses other than me. You know? And so, you know, how do you verify something like this? And I had my cell phone in my back pocket, and I never pulled it out. It was just, my biggest regret in my life right now. That I didn't
And it's difficult what happens with the cell phones when people try to take pictures.
You know,
What happens?
Come out.
Well, we've had batteries explode. Liquid in the cell phones.
Oh, wow.
We've had one woman was carrying several cell phones with her, and in an abduction, she actually got a picture, and it looked like something in a water world of blue color.
Huh.
But her other two cameras went dead. She'd had these things before, and she wanted to be ready to capture them this time.
Probably just as well I didn't pull it out then. Or videotaping it, you know?
Ken, why do you think you're being followed by the government? What's the
I was
whole-
involved with the military in my abductions, and I'll blame that on the Grays. and so, and there's a military branch that's very advanced technologies, ET technologies, and the Palladians and Greys. Those are the three groups I'm interacting with. So the government thing I wrote about, where they witnessed an abduction of me and a young college girl. And that brought in they brought in a young agent to become abducted. And that's what's in the book UFO Girl, or in my first publication. Okay. So the military was very involved. I don't understand how the federal agencies became involved. At 22, they were setting me up to be tortured and eventually killed. And a group intervened.
A group of aliens?
I don't know. They're people. They intervened. The three men involved in setting up the torture, two of them were FDEA agents. The third one, I don't know, but they disappeared. Their bodies were never found. So then, of course, investigations and people started showing up. And that's when I ran into the service. But so that is a lot of government, and it continues. It's been very stressful on my marriage, but I've been taking my energies away from that, because there was 8 homicides in the 40 years. Because I want my concentration on the information I'm getting and putting my emphasis on sharing that.
Do you feel that you're being followed now, or?
Oh, it's continuous. The break-in, when I went to Africa, they broke into this house 2 hours each of 7 days, and a lot of electronics. We located some of the electronics. We're leaving it alone. So it's vehicle, it's air, it's all the phones have federally approved wiretaps. I went with an attorney to try to override it, but the cost was going to be close to $20,000, $15,000.
Wow.
So I'm tolerating it. I'm letting it, getting my energy off of it, because it was traumatic for my first wife. My second wife is kind of bouncing through that. She's finding whatever way to get around it. So she's been handling it emotionally a little better than my first wife was able to.
But you haven't backed down from what you're doing, though. They haven't.
No, they were censoring they have complete control on the computer. And so if I write anything, it's deleted. What I was involved in, they considered top secret, above top secret. So I'm not supposed to talk about it. But I came in, I wasn't debriefed. I came in from the ET side. And so I am interested in getting all the information out that the government is choosing not to get out. So for some reason, they've stopped the deletions just recently, and I haven't figured that out. But now I've been able to write. I had an experience last night in a school. They sent me to a school. So now I'm writing them on my Facebook, what's happening, and they're not deleting it.
Oh, they were deleting off your Facebook too?
Deleting off my computer. They have complete control of the computer. So deleting off of Facebook. They shut LinkedIn down. For many years, I couldn't get anything on LinkedIn.
Oh, really? On LinkedIn, you couldn't?
No, I couldn't get into it. They blocked me from LinkedIn for a long time. So I kind of gave up on them.
But you have been able to make videos, though, correct? And post them?
I'm doing the videos now, but I needed old camera and old equipment, because the new cameras are blowing out and shutting off. There's electrical fluctuations occurring in the room that seems to be blowing the cameras. So I found an old camera, but it has to be used with an old TV set. And so once I get those films, those videos on that TV set, then I can use a video and record it. So I'm in the process of the videos on the recent abductions in the last year or so.
Whitley Strieber recently had a break-in at his apartment, and it freaked him out. because he's moved a lot over the course of his lifetime, but this recent break-in, they also hacked into his website. So you're not
they
alone.
have they were in the earlier days before computers were really going, they were stealing all my papers that I was writing about particular incidents. They're getting into my files. They're getting into my home. They've entered my home numerous times with my son hiding upstairs. They're a pretty organized group. And so I more or less just tolerate them. There's been girlfriends intimidated. There's been several poisonings. They're a very aggressive group.
And this is military.
I don't know what they are.
How about Men in Black?
2 men in black came up on a woman that was with Army intelligence, which was interesting because the military has sent several agents, or they were military, and they were looking for information in the course of that 40 years. And I didn't have the information they were looking for, so they never got the information. So I know the Army was involved. The last agent was Army intelligence.
Huh.
But the surveillance group, when I went to Africa, they actually showed evidence of being in Africa. So it may be an international group. I don't know why at 22 they thought I had the information they were going to torture and kill me for. I don't know any of the motives on that. Whether it was a time travel, time travel was involved in a lot of the Greys and the Palladians I'm involved with. But it's very complicated.
Ken, after listening to Joe's story, do you think Joe was abducted?
I think there was an attempt at communication. The missing time thing is usually what I find around the abductions. And so I think there was an attempt to interact.
Joe, has anyone approached you that, might be a government agent or somebody out of the blue just asking you questions?
No, in fact, I know a lot of people over there. I know a lot of cops, detectives that go to the restaurant, and I told them about it. And, and I even offered to take a lie detector test. And one of the cops, he's a very close friend of mine, he said, "Oh, I believe you. And then I found out later, another really good friend of mine that owns another restaurant over there, was telling me that he had gone to his place and said, "Do you think Joe's story is true or not?" So he was questioning, even though he told me he believed me, he was questioning my other buddy that owned that restaurant, if he thought I was telling the truth. I've always been a straight shooter. I've never BS'd anybody, and I'm known like Poppy Joe over there because I'm the oldest guy that worked there. And, I've never it's so out of character for me to come out with something like this. But I don't know of anybody that's ever really, maybe thought that I was a high level security risk to have me tagged or followed,
I found everybody I've spoken to who's explained their experiences believable. The levels and dimensions in this whole abduction phenomena is tremendous. It's unending. And I've never had, in all the interviews I've done, I've never come across a person I felt was making it up. That the stories are too bizarre, number one. But I found most abductees very candid and wanting to share. And I've been doing like an informal counseling with talking to people to help them understand what they're experiencing, how to increase their experiences if they wish to.
That's how I feel. I feel the same way. You just said, I feel the same way. Yeah. It helps me to share the story. Get it out.
Ask telepathically in a prayer that you'd like to meet this person, this being.
And maybe have a companion with you like Mellisa.
The telepathy is phenomenal between contactees and the ETs. I have had a lot of difficulty in interpreting them sometimes. But the telepathic communication to me as a child, I thought was imaginary friends.
Ken, can I ask you something? The first
Sure.
person I saw when I came down the porch kind of fits in that realm of what you say are the grays. Because this guy was short and skinny, and they both of them had the hoods over their heads.
Yeah, I
And-
haven't
and
seen the
other guy
grays
was
with
tall and thin,
hoods.
like they were two different entities.
Yeah, definitely.
you know?
I've seen many different entities or ETs.
Yeah.
They've introduced me to quite a few other civilizations of ETs.
Ken, if I had gone up to that person and I got close to him and I maybe put my arm on his back or touched him, he was a physical, being.
Yeah,
Would I have been sucked up too into this thing, or what do you think?
I don't think, I had a situation where the woman formed in my bathroom.
God.
She became solid. Then she took me to
Oh,
her bedroom. And that was this normally was happening coming up with the hypnosis, but it wasn't a conscious experience. And so I'm suddenly find myself from my bedroom, in her bedroom, in an instantaneous trying to figure out what the hell just happened. But with the hypnosis, I was able to explain it, describe it, but not really believing it. It was weird.
maybe I should
you-
be hypnotized. I'm
What?
thinking about it.
I did a lot of work with hypnosis, and we ended up getting into past life hypnosis stuff that I found phenomenal, but I never progressed on the past life stuff. But I found hypnosis a phenomenal tool with helping people understand it. If your mind is not ready, we were going after a 16-hour missing time period. 3 different psychiatrists, all unable to access that 16-hour period. Eventually, when we did, it was very traumatic. And that's why I like to use a somewhat light hypnosis. And most of the hypnosis that we worked with others, they would come out of it, but not necessarily remember what they just described experiencing.
Mhm.
And then we had what we called alternate personalities. And with the Palladians, these played a very big role. So you can be having an experience and wake up never knowing it.
Has your son been abducted?
Yes, and both wives. And I'm light on talking about them because they're very,
Right.
Yeah, she
I
works for the
understand.
UN, and so their privacy, but
Uh-huh.
they did put a lot of marks on my wife shortly after I met her, and there was some conflicts the Pleiadians had with my wife, but
Jeez.
things resolved.
I actually have a question for you, Ken. When you were talking about the hypnosis and the past life regressions, were you talking about past life regressions for yourself? And if so, were you abducted in your past lives as well? Does that come up and recur?
I have memory of a lot of the past lives and the deaths. And I have the only thing that goes back, the Palladians said that I'm a part of their seeding of tens of thousands of years ago. So that goes before
Interesting.
Atlantis.
Right.
So they consider because I was writing their breeding program as a hybrid program. And they said, no, we're a breeding program. We're breeding amongst our own.
Hmm.
So for somehow they consider those of that seeding, they said I was born into them. So I've not had any past lives with the ETs. So this is
Do
kind
you
of
have any?
strange.
Do you have any recollection of being inside a craft?
Yeah, many of
Okay.
being in different crafts. And the Palladian crafts was like communities lived on them. You know, children,
How large were they, the crafts?
I only knew them from the inside,
Okay.
and some of them changed. The metal changed, structure changed inside. I remember watching an auditorium become a large room, all the chairs disappearing into the floor. As a child, they'd bring me to the ships, and I'd watch the people in the ships. They had, and this is Pleiadians, and they'd be marching them. And I always felt left out because I'm standing there watching them, not participating with them. The gray ships were much smaller. And then the US military ship was very much like the gray ship.
Oh, the US military has a spacecraft?
There's one of the groups I'm involved in is an advanced ET military group. And I've talked to several others that have that same trio. This advanced ET military group, the Greys, and the Pleiadians. There seems to be a cooperation going on with those three. All the military branches in our military are involved with different celestials and are involved with very different motives. There's a breakup of working together, and the government has the tendency to have been with the darker ETs.
The which?
The darker ETs.
Oh, the darker ETs.
Anunukis, reptilians, draconians, and the Masons, Republican Party. There's a I hate to throw in, but the agendas.
How many of them are aliens?
No. When I'm saying Republican Party, the Republican Party reflects the Masons' values.
Okay.
And you'll find the values are the same. And then the reptilians have the control over the Masons, which historically took place 100 to 200 years ago. So the reptilians are in a relatively powerful position with a lot of the governmental and oversights of the governments on Earth. And the Pleiadians are in conflict with the reptilians.
What's the purpose of all this? I mean, where they are taking humans and, I mean, what's the bottom line?
Which one? Yeah, this, you want to talk about the Greys?
Yeah, take your pick.
Okay. Yeah, because with the Greys, and they're very wise and old species. They've gone through atomic, nuclear, genetic changing. They're losing the ability to repropagate, to reproduce. So in the Eisenhower administration meeting in 1954, an agreement was made that they would be able to inseminate women and then remove the infants at a certain age and incubate. So in my second book, I was writing about that, but the book got deleted. We managed to salvage some parts, and I may look to publish it. But I had 6 encounters of missing time with the Greys, in which the girlfriend was implanted with an embryo.
Jeez.
And so that's what In Their Darkness is about, because those 6 women would not have memory that I know of that situation. And it was terrifying. When you listen to it a woman in the program in 1975, she could be easily screaming. She's in total terror. It was horrible. But then when I spoke with somebody in 2010, the procedures are totally different and they were more humane. The Pleiadians had a lot of problems with how the Greys were doing the implants. But they seem to have found agreement. But the woman that I spoke with in Germany, she discussed how, and she was very close to them to the point of them appearing in her home. And she told them they had completed ships for Earth's evacuations. I've heard of these ships in the underground caverns. And I lost contact with her recently. But people were being given the choice to leave. And the Greys were providing a means for them to leave.
Huh.
The
Leave
Greys.
for where? Leave for outer space? I mean, leave Earth?
Leave Earth, basically, for other places. The Greys are very attached to the human civilization in its continued existence. So are the Palladians, because they consider those from their seedings of tens of thousands of years ago to be Palladians. So they have a strong interest in them, their lives, their souls. And then all the new ETs coming in, they're all working to raise the frequencies. We operate in very low frequencies on this planet.
Yeah. So Ken, what do you think of the idea that the Greys are us in the distant future and they're coming back time traveling?
Well, the Greys I'm involved with are from the future. They made that very clear.
But are they us?
I don't.
Or did they seed this planet?
That's something I'd certainly like to ask. I don't.
The next time you see him, we've got questions from Rob and Trish that you could give them.
Unfortunately, most of my experiences with the Greys are unconscious. I have to access them through hypnosis. The Greys don't directly interact with me. They interact with what we've been calling our alternates. They create a self and then they interact with that self.
You mean they create an alternate self of you?
Yeah. And then they interact.
that's
And the Palladians also do that game. And different people have different levels of awareness. Some have full awareness of all their experiences with the Palladians and Earth. And many don't. Many don't have any memory of what's going on with the Palladians.
Could Joe's experience have been an encounter with some version of himself?
I don't
Like what you're talking about?
I don't think so. There's many possibilities, but I'm apt to think of it as a separate entity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they have done time travel with us to the future, because the Palladians have made it clear since I was a teenager that they're here to prevent what happens.
To prevent what happens?
Yeah, that's what they're here for now, to prevent what happens.
And what happens?
They
don't know. Oh,
They've
they don't
been
tell you?
very good at keeping me ignorant. But I believe they gave me the time zone of 32 years.
From when?
From now.
Oh, from now. Okay.
That there's going to be, in the time travel experiences, what we saw, a group of us that I've interviewed, we saw no technologies. We saw the remnants of the technologies on Earth. No running water. And they were living in what looked like remnants of houses that had rotted roofs. They were living in cabins. Very, very simple.
Was it like
dystopian future?
Well, it's not. I know the Incas have talked of 5 extinctions, but kind of what's coming up, the impression I get, it's not an extinction, it's a restart. And they feel positive about what will occur in this restart. The destruction is coming on. What better period for a restart and a different structure? Our structure is, we got a lot of holes in it, basically. It's devious, it's misinformation, it's creating falsehoods and false realities in people. It's about control. And the Palladian aspects, they serve God is to serve one another. the body is the temple. Violence of the body is the most sacred and is the worst of all crimes. They have a very different overall structure, and just like any matrix, I haven't got much. I can't clarify a lot of it, but I'm trying to.
What do the Pleiadians look like?
Pretty much like us, usually more attractive, I have to say. And they're usually under 30, which I haven't figured out.
Can they move between the physical and non-physical realities? Do you know?
They can move from their ship to my bedroom.
Okay.
Jeez.
How do they do that?
Plasma teleportation, and that's what I have photographs of.
So this is what I think that happened with me. This guy just came out of thin air, nowhere. And
Yeah, well, that's what
And
the
disappeared.
electrical,
yeah,
that's what the electrical
exactly.
was telling me. Because in order for them to take plasma teleportation is matter turning into energy. And then it's moved as energy, and then it becomes matter when it forms. And I have pictures of the process that we've filmed.
Can you show those?
Sure.
Because maybe that's what your experience was, Joe.
Yeah, I think
You
when,
know?
when this guy got taken up and he was dismembered, and I saw the little starlight, I'm thinking
Okay, here's,
that's what happened. Is
Mm.
you
let
had
me see if I can.
participated in the starlights.
This is plasma teleportation. This person is returning to this room and will become a solid form, just like you and me.
And is that a photograph?
Yeah, these are filmed during abductions.
Is the figure in the middle, that's going to be the human, the solid human?
Yeah,
Or the
that's
solid-
plasma. And unfortunately, it's so bright, we had to dim to get the image, but this will become a person's body.
Huh.
And so that woman that came into my bathroom started out like this. And then, if I can,
Who took the photos?
I use security cameras.
Okay.
And that was a lot of work, finding the security camera that would be able to record, because most all the security cameras shut off
Huh.
to the electromagnetic fields.
So Joe, even if you'd had your cell phone out, it may not have captured
No, we
anything.
wouldn't have, yeah.
This
That
is
answers one
what,
question.
Yeah.
after teleportation, this remains in the room. The film continues doing distortions.
Huh.
Mhm.
And then when the person returns, these are just pictures of the distortions.
That looks like droplets of plasma. Is that? Or-
Somebody was telling me water vapor. This is probably the most prominent one. I don't really know what it is, but the fact that it remains that way when I'm gone,
Huh.
and then it returns back to normal.
What was the object in that?
Yeah, that's what I was
last
gonna
photo?
ask.
That's a lamp.
Oh, a lamp, okay.
Okay.
By the side of the bed. So these are just some more. So until I return, this is what's going on in the bedroom
Jeez.
on the security cameras. On this one, the bush now we got to record it. Here's another returning.
Hmm.
We found 3 different patterns in returning. So 3 different electromagnetic.
Is that the lamp again there?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
because that's the side of the bed. That's where we set the camera. That's where I disappear.
Hmm.
So the original picture I showed you. That's in the
Right.
same place. So now I got this video. So now I got to find a way to take old technology. And there's another picture. That showed the phases. It showed it pictures across 4 seconds. A series of stills. Now we also the other, yeah, I can't find that one. Hope I might find it later. Oh yeah, this is it. No, this is another process where the person becomes two people.
My God.
The Bushnell camera was able to pick a lot of things, people walking through walls. And so there's a lot of videos. I got thousands that I haven't fully, but as you can see, he becomes two people and then one leaves.
Huh.
And we got a woman, we photographed her other self. One self was left in her bed and she was walking around her house. And the other
Is that
self,
like an etheric body or is it a?
no, it's a physical body. It splits into two physical bodies because in the picture, he's affecting the sheets.
Hmm.
And so a friend has got an explanation for that I haven't had a chance. She's been moving around. This is an orb. And these we found in the three houses we were filming in. We found these in some room of the house.
Hmm.
And they also, with the Bushnell cam, a similar object, as you saw in that one I just showed, that will take over the person's image. So the Bushnell couldn't do the plasma, it would explode the batteries. But so now I got to set up with the Bushnell plugged in. And so you have to use AC if you're filming. The other images were from, that I wanted to show, were from a seance communication with ETs. And they sent us images in the seance format. We were not able to understand one another. They were using clicking and static sounds are coming through the iPad. The iPad became our medium for communicating with these entities.
So Joe, that might be like what you heard.
Yes, yes, that's what I'm thinking, yeah.
So these are some of the images they projected to us in holograms.
Huh.
They start out with white. Then they progressed. These are some more white ones. And then they progressed to different images. They went into color images.
Wow.
And but what we learned from this experience, I don't like the CE5 initiative at all.
What is the CE5?
It's standing out, trying to get abducted outside.
Oh,
And a lot of information has been removed from the internet when I was researching in 2003. The fact that we were selling humans for them to eat, the eyes, the mouth, the mucous membranes, the ETs loved.
ooh.
Germany and the Americans were selling humans to the ETs to eat these. And then at the same time, bodies were being found, missing eyes, rectum, mouth. So
That's
there's
like-
a
that's
lot of
like the
reasons I
cows.
don't like the CE5. So the method
cows.
that is best is, these are just some more images, is seance setup. And so the Palladians have been pushing me to do that.
So when they eat humans, that's like, remember how there were all these dissected cows that were found at one time?
Yeah,
Cattle
It's the same.
mutation.
Yeah, cattle
mutations.
mutilations. Yeah.
Mutilations.
Yeah, not mutation.
Which ones are eating humans?
and not, there were many different groups involved in these underground caverns that the military was involved in. I'm not sure which group was enjoying the mucous membranes.
Oh God.
But it was a popular delicacy for them. A lot of people felt the military and the government chose to deal with the worst of the ETs. They wanted their technologies, They wanted their, so, just the fact that Eisenhower didn't feel there was a choice with the Greys and the hybrid program. As he said, we have no control over what they can do. The Greys have, of all the ones I've been familiar, have the most advanced technologies. The Palladians are pretty advanced as well.
Ken, what do you think of the current congressional investigations into UFO alien contact?
I'm having a problem with the fixation on UFOs
Yeah.
because we're way beyond that.
Mm.
The military is way beyond that. NASA's way beyond that. NASA's talking to, I've had people describe NASA emblems when they're being abducted. So I have a problem. It's like, let's get into what the interactions are, what they're sharing with man. I feel what they're sharing with man is very good. And I think it would counter a lot of the negativity. They're working from an area of love and compassion versus an area of fear. So I'm kind of sick of, are UFOs real?
Yeah, becomes sort of beside the point.
The other thing with CE5, in most of us in our abductions, we don't see a UFO. When the Greys have abducted me, the military has responded with helicopters, because the Greys, in order to take you, have to make appearance. And they usually make a very brief appearance before they disappear. But to take you, they have to make an appearance. So that means they show up on radar, they show up, and then the military will send a helicopter or something to respond. And then they're usually gone by the time the helicopter arrives. And then when they bring the person back, they drop them off a number of different ways.
And what are you working on now? What's your current project?
Well, there's a publisher is interested in 2 of my books. One that I couldn't get published. So I'm working offline on a laptop. And then what I'm also working to do is to do the video work, because I think the video is going to make the pictures look more explanatory. Everybody's pictures of the ETs do not look like evidence. They're messed up because of the electromagnetic frequency, and the levels are very high. So I think we need to be looking at their messages and not looking at, are they real or not real?
Right.
So that's why I've been a little frustrated with the UFOs. I've had maybe 3 sightings in my life, yet I've had thousands of abductions.
Joe, how has your experience changed your life?
Oh boy. I mean, it's I think about it all the time. Morning, noon, and night. Some nights is Trish knows some of my emails come in at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to her, because I'm up all night, and I'll go to bed 3, 4 o'clock in the morning because I have trouble going to sleep.
So
Understandably.
you need to find resolution with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm searching.
Yeah, no, but communicate to, see if you can communicate to it. You got a picture of it. In telepathy, pictures can be quite helpful.
See, what is the reason this guy appeared to me like this? Like, it seems like he just came together through, teleportation, whatever, and he was there, and but he seemed like he wanted to get away from me. He was moving away. Even when I said, "Hey, man, where you go, baby?"
It's incomplete.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll come back?
I think if you ask, he might.
I go outside at night, Ken. I look up at the stars, and I do that.
Yeah.
I look.
Keep doing it.
In an area where there's a lot
Or
of
you can
fields.
do it in your bedroom with his picture.
You mean the picture he drew?
Yeah, the pictures that he drew.
Is it a good idea?
I don't think it's going to mean it. What did you feel? This is a question I ask a lot. When he was there, were you threatened?
No.
Were you fearful?
No, I thought he was a regular person, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
You felt calm with him.
yes.
Mm.
And the
Okay.
only time I figured something wasn't right when I was walking side by side and I got that static electricity sound was
Yeah.
emanating from his shoes, not from his mouth or anything else. It was like an electric.
Yeah, I
current
think it had to do with the
when he
gold,
was walking.
the
Yeah.
gold in his shoes.
You know, the other thing, Ken, I wanted to bring up is the fact that there was no snow on the ground, which is unusual for up here at that time of the year. It snowed probably like a week later. But in a way, I kind of wish there was snow because then maybe I could have seen if there were footprints.
Yeah, I don't think you need to look for proof.
Yeah, no, I do. I saw it. I'm telling you. It's
And,
there.
and the technology threw my mental state into confusion.
Yeah.
The appearing from one place to another place, that particularly lost me.
Yeah.
There's actually when we were doing hypnosis, there was a personality, it called itself 21, which handled the transitions.
Huh.
Mhm.
Yeah, Joe,
Okay.
start asking.
Yeah. Okay. We've
Yeah,
come
I
to
mean,
the end of our. Whoops. Yeah, we've come to the end of our hour.
Okay.
And want to
The
thank
way we know it is because our dog comes
our
in
dogs get
panting.
up and not our I got a golden retriever right next to it. He was sleeping the entire hour. The last 30 seconds he got up and walked over to me.
I have foxes in my backyard that do the same.
Oh, I love your videos. I love your
Yeah.
videos of those foxes.
Oh,
I want to
yeah.
thank both of you for
Yeah,
coming
this was
on.
fascinating. We'd like to have you both back on at some point.
I'm looking to do a lot of public, so you can
Okay.
have me as many times as you want.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, let
very
us
much,
know when your
Ken.
book, let us know about the status of your book too.
Yeah,
Okay.
the first one sold 32,000, but the government was blocking it.
Huh.
You can buy it, you can order it, but you weren't getting it. And then when I was sending them, they were disappearing.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I should have used another address other than my own address. I've been dealing with mail interception. So if I
Okay.
was smart, I would have used another address on that book. But then eventually it was allowed and it was published and it was allowed to circulate.
And Ken, do you have a website or social media?
I've been doing a lot with Facebook.
Okay.
And I actually
Joe,
have
how
the
about
image
you
you
two?
look for.
I haven't been doing too much other than, you know, people come up to me and you know, it will somehow get on the subject. I don't really go out too much out of my way anymore talking about it.
Mhm.
But people have heard about it and they'll come up and ask me and, you know, I'll tell them everything. It helps me to tell the story.
Yeah, it's
So
unfinished.
bizarre.
Yeah, it
It's-
does sound unfinished.
Yeah,
Well-
so go for finishing that encounter.
Yeah.
The fact that you felt the ease, the fact you didn't feel the negative energies is what we pretty much go by, because
Yeah.
the experiences with the reptilians are horrible.
Yeah,
And those are the lower frequencies.
right.
Mhm.
But yeah, reach back with that picture. Envision
You
that
think-
picture.
You think those streaks in the air that I saw way up above, you know, like almost like at a 90-degree angle that came out when that flag picture came out? The red
Yeah.
and orange. You
I
think that
have
was
a
like
picture of
landing
an
spot?
interdimensional gate.
That was like, yeah, exactly.
I have
Exactly.
pictures of one opening and closing,
Okay.
but those are not with this group of pictures.
There's
You
almost
guys
like-
should stay in touch. When I
Oh,
sent you all the link, you have each other's email
Yeah.
address now.
Yeah, I have
Okay.
so many
Yeah.
more questions to ask, and I know the time has kind of expired, but, you know, I'll tell you.
We really appreciate
So,
both you coming on.
Thank
This has
you
been
guys for
fascinating.
coming on.
Yeah.
It's all good
appreciate the
stuff.
opportunity to
Thanks
speak.
for having me.
And so
Thanks,
Joe,
Melissa.
is there anywhere that people could go to see your illustrations and stuff? Do you have?
The government wouldn't let me set up a website.
Well,
How about Joe?
I'll
Joe?
you have-
post mine on Facebook. I
Facebook.
only posted that one, the picture of the, you know, the rectangle, you know, because that was the most calming piece that came out of it all, you know, that
Yeah.
came up, and that was the end of it all when it toppled over into the clouds. But I'll start putting more things up, but you know, I'm sure more people will be responding to me when I do that.
And then,
I'll
and then,
post the gate.
Yeah, post the gate, Ken.
Yeah, that was incredible how this woman saw that.
Yeah.
and then
cool.
Melissa, anywhere you want to share any contact or anything?
No, you guys can reach me through Rob and Trish.
Okay. Fair enough.
All
You're
righty,
just
thanks a
afraid they'll
lot.
come for you, Melissa.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, take care.
Bye
all.
now.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Thank you very much.
Bye.
It's okay, Nigel.